Hi friends, welcome back to Read Aloud. Today is Tuesday, March 31st, and the book that we're reading today is called Alexander Who's Not, Do You Hear Me? I Mean It, Going to Move. So in front of you, before we get started, it would be helpful if you had a copy of the book, but if not, you can follow along here, and then you can look at it later on online to help answer your exit ticket. And then you need a paper and a pencil to write down the answers to the questions that I'm going to ask you in the video. If you have a printer at home, you can print out the pages that were made. They are in the Google Drive folder. But if not, a regular piece of paper and pencil is totally fine. So today, friends, we're going to do something a little bit different. When we're reading our fiction books, these videos are getting to be way too long. And we need to make sure that to do our best work, we can pay attention. So that means that we're only going to read half of the book today, and we'll read the other half tomorrow. So when you're filling out your questions as we're reading as we go through the book, there should be some questions that are left blank. These questions are, what is the solution and what is the lesson learned? And the reason these are blank is because we're not going to finish the book, so we don't know how the problem is going to be solved, and we don't know the lesson that the author is trying to teach us. But it is important that you hold on to this piece of paper because you'll need it for tomorrow to fill out the rest of the questions, as well as your exit ticket for tomorrow, too. Let's get started. Alexander Who's Not, Do You Hear Me? I Mean It, Going to Move. Sounds serious. They can't make me pack my baseball mitt or my I Love Dinosaurs sweatshirt or my cowboy boots. They can't make me pack my ice skates, my jeans with 8 zippers, my compass, my radio, or my stuffed pig. My dad is packing, my mom is packing, my brothers Nick and Anthony are packing. I'm not packing. I'm not going to move. Sounds determined. My dad says we have to move to where his new job is. That job is 1,000 miles away. My mom says we have to move to where our new house is. That house is 1,000 miles away. Right next door to the new house, there's a boy who is Anthony's age. Down the street, there's a boy the same age as Nick. There's no one next door or down the street or maybe for 1,000 miles who is my age. I'm not, do you hear me? I mean it, going to move. All right, so let's pause right there for a second. The first question that you're going to ask yourself is, who is the main character in this story? Take about 20 seconds to answer that question now. Go. All right, so when we're looking for the main character in the story, I see a picture of a little boy on the front, and over the last few pages, that same little boy has been the main focus of these last few pages. Now, in here, on the pages, we haven't yet heard the boy's name, but we know that he's not going to move, and he means it. And he wants to know if you can hear him. But he is not going to move. And the title of this book is Alexander Who's Not, Do You Hear Me? I Mean It, Going to Move. So I'm going to think that the main character is Alexander. So the main character of this story is Alexander. Let's keep reading. I'll never have a best friend like Paul again. I'll never have a great sitter like Rachel again. I'll never have my soccer team or my carpool again. I'll never have kids who know me except my brothers, and sometimes they don't want to know me. I'm not packing. I'm not going to move. Nick says I'm a fool and should get a brain transplant. Anthony says I'm being immature. My mom and my dad say that after a while, I'll get used to living 1,000 miles from everything. Never. Not ever. No way. N-O. Alright, now we're going to answer the next question. What do we know about the main character so far? You can flip back in either your copy or you can look at the copy that you have online to see what we know about the character so far. Go ahead. All right, so let's flip back. So at the beginning, we know that he is not happy right now, and the reason he's not happy is because his family is moving. But he is refusing. He says he's not packing, he's not going to move. So we know that he's very upset that he needs to move. We also know that he lives with his mom and his dad, and that he has two brothers, Anthony and... what's the other one's name? Anthony and Nick. His two brothers are Anthony and Nick. We know that he has a best friend named Paul, and he has a babysitter named Rachel. And he's very, very upset about moving because he doesn't know if he's going to have any more friends, or he doesn't know he won't have his same soccer team, he won't have his same carpool. He doesn't want things to change. So the most important things that we know about the main character are that his family is preparing to move, and he's very upset about it because he doesn't want things to change. Now, we can also answer the question after that. Who are some other important characters? We know Alexander is the main character, but who are other important characters in the story? Go ahead. So the other important characters in the story are going to be the people who are in Alexander's family, because those are all of the people who are moving, as well as the people who are important in Alexander's life. So let's look back and see who we can find. So we have mom and dad. Those are going to be important characters. His best friend Paul. And Nick and Anthony, definitely, because they're moving with him. And his babysitter, Rachel, is also an important character, because these are all people who are important to Alexander. So we've got mom, dad, Anthony, Nick, Paul, and Rachel. Let's keep reading. I maybe could stay here and live with the Baldwins. They've got a dog. I always wanted a dog. I maybe could stay here and live with the Rooneys. They've got 6 girls. They always wanted one boy. I maybe could stay here and live with Mr. and Mrs. Oberdorfer. They always give great treats on Halloween. I maybe could stay here and live by myself in maybe a treehouse, or maybe a tent, or maybe a cave. So he really, really doesn't want to move. Before we go on to the next page, we can answer the next question. What is the setting of this story? Take about 30 seconds. Go. So to figure out what the setting is, we need to look back at the pictures in the story. So it starts off, they're in Alexander's house. They're in his family's house that they're moving from. Not their new house, their old house. And now this picture is on the soccer field. We got some neighbors' houses. There's a tree house. So when the story takes place in a lot of different places that are all around the main character's house, we know that the setting is the main character's neighborhood. So the setting is Alexander's neighborhood. Before we go any further, we can also answer the next question. What is the problem in this story? Now, this problem is the problem right from the beginning. So you can look back to see what the problem of the story is. Go ahead. So we know that the problem in a fiction story, because this is a fiction book, is we need to ask ourselves, what does the character want and what is getting in their way? So the problem in this story, what the main character wants in this story is that he does not want to move. So what he wants is to stay in his old house with his old friends, his old babysitter. He wants his life to stay the same. But his family's moving. So the problem in this story is that his family's moving and Alexander doesn't want to. Let's keep going. Nick said I could live in the zoo with all the other animals. Anthony says I'm being immature. My dad says I should take a last look at all my special places. I'm taking a look, but it won't be my last. I looked at the Rooney's roof, which I once climbed out on, but then I couldn't climb back in until the fire department came and helped me. I looked at Pearson's drugstore, where they once said my mom had to pay them $80 when I threw a ball in the air that I almost caught. I looked at the lot next to Albert's house, where I once and for all learned to tell which was poison ivy. I looked at my school, where even Mrs. Knoop, the teacher I once spilled the goldfish bowl on, said she'd miss me. I looked at my special places where a lot of different things happened. Not just different bad, but different good. Like winning that sack race, like finding that flashlight, like spitting farther than Jack 3 times in a row. Like selling so much lemonade that my dad said I would probably have to pay taxes. My dad was just making jokes about paying taxes. I wish he was just making jokes about having to move. I'm not. Do you hear me? I mean it. Going to move. So if you go on the Google Drive, you can see the exit ticket that says, "How does Alexander feel about moving to a new house?" How do you know? Use at least 3 examples from the text that show how Alexander is feeling. Then explain how those examples prove how he is feeling. So, we have a number of jobs to do in this exit ticket. The first one is you need to tell how Alexander is feeling about moving. Does he feel positively about it? Does he feel negatively about it? Does he want to move? Does he not want to move? And then you're going to provide 3 examples. So you need to look back in the text and write about 3 ways that Alexander shows that he does or does not want to move. And then you need to explain how each of those examples proves how Alexander is feeling. If you have any questions, make sure that you reach out to your teacher. And if you want a shout out, make sure you show your work to your teacher, and you might get a shout out in the next video. All right, friends, I will see you tomorrow for the rest of Alexander, who's not, do you hear me? I mean it, going to move.